Welcome, everyone, to this next installment of our 125th anniversary virtual education series. This is a series of webinars that's sponsored by the Board of Directors of GEMS, our graduates of Earth and Mineral Sciences. So thanks to them for pulling this really informative and interesting series together. Today, the topic is around sustainability. And at first blush, it might seem a bit odd that a college founded on educating miners and with a long history of supporting the extractive industries seeks to lead in the area of sustainability. Yet, as we'll explore today, there are many reasons why we're well positioned to provide that leadership. First of all, it's among our values stated in our new strategic plan. We say we strive to model sustainability practices in all aspects of earth and mineral sciences, including our daily operations, and we embrace the UN's Sustainable Development Goals as a context for the salience of our mission. It's also action item 1.1.1 in that plan. That action item says that we will infuse sustainability, global competency, business acumen, data literacy, and social justice principles into a greater number of EMS courses and engagement experiences. We also recognize that as the world embarks on an energy transition to renewable energy, demand for domestic supplies of critical minerals that support these technologies will rise. These will require the establishment of environmentally responsible mining and new approaches to the recycling of these resources, as well as extraction of them from wastes, acid mine drainage, and provide Appalachian opportunity to remediate abandoned mines and abundant waste piles. We also know that natural gas will continue to play an important role in the energy transition. So mechanisms to manage carbon, for example, carbon capture, utilization, storage, and mineralization need to be developed. All these require the expertise we have in earth mineral sciences. Carbon is also a wonderful atom, and we'll continue to develop new materials from nanoscale to macro that will revolutionize everything from energy to healthcare and may ultimately provide alternatives to those rare earth elements and lithium-based electronics and batteries, for which our critical minerals initiative is so focused on. So we're going to explore EMS and sustainability, and this discussion is going to be moderated today by John Leese, who's been a member of our GEMS Board of Directors since 2016, and he's currently the board liaison to the College of Earth Mineral Sciences Sustainability Council. He spent a long career with Alcoa. If there's any industry that knows about the importance of recycling, that's aluminum. And so he spent a long time with Alcoa. He was the director, environmental health and safety, global construction and engineering for that company. And he was there with them for 38 years. He had a great opportunity in that career to travel the world, to look at environmental issues facing Europe and the Americas. And so he's a great person to have work with us in the college on this issue of sustainability in a context from the local to the global. He's an alum, of course, of Penn State, earned his Bachelor of Science degree in 1976 in Earth Sciences, and also a Master's in Environmental Pollution Control with wastewater engineering as a focus in 1977 from Penn State. So welcome, John, and I'm going to turn it over to you to moderate today's discussion.
Okay, thanks very much, Lee. Appreciate it. And good afternoon, everyone. My name's John Leese, as Lee said, and I'll be your moderator. Our topic today in our third webinar in this series covers the sustainability initiatives currently underway in the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences. And these programs are aimed at reducing the environmental footprint of the college and are a part of the university-wide sustainability program to reduce the carbon and overall environmental footprint of the university. As Lee shared, with the faculty expertise, the curricula, and the research focus related to energy and climatology and environment, the college is really well positioned to make significant contributions to the university's overall sustainability efforts. Today's speaker is Dr. Tim White, who is a research professor in the Earth and Environmental Systems Institute. and the sustainability for the College of EMS. Tim began his career at Penn State after working for 4 years in the environmental and hydrologic consulting industry with the USGS in Anchorage, Alaska. His research responsibilities at Penn State have led to travels all over the globe, including Western Europe, Argentina, Puerto Rico, Australia, Mexico, and Brazil, as well as time at sea. Tim has served as the National Office Director of the NSF-funded Critical Zone Observations Program and has co-led an annual summer course in Piedmont, Italy for international researchers interested in studying critical zone science. In addition, he's a NAUI scuba instructor and oversees Penn State's science diving program with courses that involve diving in Florida, the Bahamas, and throughout Pennsylvania. He earned an MS in geology and a PhD in geosciences from Penn State. So with no further ado, I would like to introduce Tim, and he can start his presentation.
Well, greetings. Thanks for joining us. Before I launch into the heart of my presentation, I'd like to consider what is sustainability. While you'll find a number of definitions, the one I prefer is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the future. This philosophy is based on two simple principles. First, everything humanity needs for survival and well-being depends on nature. And second, living generations have an obligation to future generations to provide a habitable environment with ample resources for their survival and well-being. Oh, man. This slide displays a map from the 1997 landmark nature paper by Costanza and colleagues in which they present the first well-considered valuation of ecosystem services globally. And by ecosystem services, we mean, for example, pollination of agricultural products by insects or natural filtration of water through geologic materials. And in other words, these researchers consider what is nature's economic value to humanity. The paper demonstrated that depending on various valuation models and land use assessments, nature's value to humanity globally averaged $33 trillion per year, being equal to the world's gross domestic product of $33 trillion in 1997. Thus, in this valuation, nature's gross domestic product was found to equal the total economic output of humanity globally. In 2014, Costanza and colleagues published a follow-on paper using updated economic models and better land use data to make a similar valuation, except here for 2011. This effort concluded that nature's gross domestic product ranged from $125 to $145 trillion, and thus exceeded human output and the world gross domestic product of $91 trillion in 2011. But really importantly, the researchers found that the loss of ecosystem services between the first paper in 1997 and 2011 equated to somewhere between $4 and $20 trillion of loss per year. Clearly, these are huge losses that greatly reduce the net value of ecosystem services. And that means that those services will have to be engineered, replaced, and really importantly, afforded by humanity. Simply put, those losses are not economically sustainable and will in turn deeply affect humanity's survival and well-being. This slide shows a somewhat outdated image from the National Academy Press's Our Common Journey, but its message remains clear. On the x-axis are various characteristics of human society, while on the y are shown future projections for those characteristics indexed to 1995 values. And what that means is that in all cases, the 1995 value equals 1, and a value, for example, of 2 means that that characteristic is projected to be 2 times its 1995 value. My point in choosing this slide here is that human population has grown from 5.7 to 7.9 billion people in the past 25 years and is projected to grow to 10.9 billion by 2100. At current rates of consumption, land use, waste emissions, et cetera, all of the characteristics shown here are projected to increase. Thus, the ecosystem services that I started discussing, the ones that we depend on, must continue to decline unless humanity changes patterns of land use and resource use to a sustainable model. In 2015, all United Nations member states adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. At the core of the agenda are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I'll call them SDGs from here on out. And this is a global partnership of action by all nations, recognizing that ending poverty and other deprivations, improving health and education, reducing inequality, and spurring economic growth must all be a part of a strategy for tackling climate change and conserving our natural resources. This slide is meant to make 2 points as I shift to focus on Penn State. I've borrowed the theme of these slides from University Sustainability Officer Paul Srivastava. On the left is an image from the 2018 Sustainable Development Report of the US, listing states on the y-axis and each of the UN SDGs on the x. The color coding is meant to show a measure of success at implementing a goal. So green is great, yellow so-so, red means will not meet the goal by 2030. The bottom line is that Pennsylvania ranks 30th among the states, with half of the goals coded as red. Clearly, as a state, we lack the ownership and leadership to adequately address the Sustainable Development Goals. The image on the right is a map of Pennsylvania showing the location of Penn State Commonwealth campuses, and that greater than 96% of Pennsylvania lies within 50 miles of a Penn State campus. In other words, geographic reach combined with intellectual prowess and expertise well positions the university to lead the effort to implement Sustainable Development Goals and move Pennsylvania toward a sustainable future. And we are. I'm not going to discuss what the university has done and continues to do to address the Sustainable Development Goals. Paul Srivastava has placed implementation of them squarely at the center of all university efforts to become more sustainable. If you care to read more about university level efforts, then visit the Sustainability Institute's website or browse the most recent University Sustainability Report. I will focus on the graph on the left that displays greenhouse gas emissions inventory results for the Penn State Commonwealth campus system, with years on the x-axis and metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent on the y. Each year since 1998, the university's Office of Physical Plant has inventoried with a goal of reducing emissions. The peak in 2004 is followed by a decline in the years since, and then a projection for meeting state goals by 2050. Our most recent inventory for fiscal year 2018-19 was approximately 425,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. But now comes the hard part. First, the simplest efficiencies have been accomplished, and thus subsequent reductions require new technology and substantial investments to achieve. Second is that the state's goal is considered by many to be not sufficiently aggressive. In other words, we must reduce emissions more rapidly to avoid the most dire effects of climate change. Penn State cannot simply burden the Office of Physical Plant with achieving more aggressive goals. We must work together. And that theme lies at the heart of the remainder of my presentation. I'm going to quote to you from the 2020 College of Earth and Mineral Sciences Sustainability Action Plan because it nicely ties considerations of climate change to the many other environmental and social challenges included in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The quote is, "We view halting and reversing anthropogenic climate change and global warming while providing affordable, clean energy as the major sustainability challenge facing Penn State, the Commonwealth, nation, and global society, for which EMS is most suited to provide leadership. We recognize that we face many other environmental, political, and societal threats, including those that motivated the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we recognize the important EMS strengths and the contributions that can be made in numerous other areas. So we couple the leading focus on energy and climate with activities addressing the other threats." I'm also going to quote University Sustainability Officer Shrivastava with reference to a spring 2020 Penn State Faculty Senate Climate Action Resolution in which he stated, "We look to EMS to leading the university and executing this resolution." So I'll just simply point to some highlights here of past activities in the college relating to environmental sustainability, including 5 faculty whose work with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change contributed to winning a Nobel Peace Prize in 2007, and 1 faculty and an alumni as winners of the 2019 Tyler Prize for Environmental Achievement, known as the Nobel for the Environment. Our most recent efforts were formalized in 2019 and resulted in the appointment of a sustainability officer and the creation of 4 standing and 2 ad hoc committees comprised of a total of 31 volunteers from the college and 12 members from our alumni board. The standing committees are curriculum and student engagement, operations, outreach, and research, representing 4 major areas of relevance to the greater mission of the college. A very important point is that the participation of alumni has been a boon to our efforts, bringing a wide range of perspectives from industry and consulting, business, federal agencies, K-12 education, and other universities, perspectives that we might otherwise lack. And it has also been a source of bragging rights at the university level, with other colleges wishing they had the alumni engagement that we wield. Our major accomplishments in 2020 are the completion of a 12-page sustainability action plan with 12 goals and 54 actions that inform the college's 5-year strategic plan, a greenhouse gas emissions inventory based on fiscal year 2018-19 data, and a related how-to guide for college and unit level emissions inventories, a college-wide course assessment, and creation of a listserv and web presence. In this next series of slides, I expand on our actions and plans relating to the Sustainability Action Plan and the EMS 5-year strategic plan. In the realm of sustainability research, you can see a number of important activities in progress. One I am very proud of is the Dean's decision to create an EMS Sustainability Fund to support activities that reduce or offset the carbon and overall environmental footprint of the college. Examples of fundable activities range across the realm of the college's mission, and in 2021, 2 out of 9 projects were funded. One that explores repurposing abandoned oil and gas wells as potential geothermal resources, including on Penn State campuses, and a second that considers how to build more efficient grid scale batteries that can more sustainably support our electric power grid. Our Curriculum and Student Engagement Committee has been busy completing a college-wide course assessment in which 268 courses were evaluated. Of these, 60% were determined to be either sustainability focused or sustainability related, and 76 faculty members representing half of those courses expressed interest in developing more sustainability curriculum. It's important to note that EMS courses represent 24% of university-wide sustainability courses in a previous university assessment of sustainability curriculum. The committee is currently running a Sustainability in Our Curriculum workshop series that engages faculty from 3 of 5 of our departments and 2 Commonwealth campuses in achieving that goal. The committee has also initiated a survey of students in EMS courses as a follow-on to the faculty survey. And the point there is to evaluate the degree to which sustainability is and should be integrated into our major courses. And are we accomplishing what we think we're accomplishing? The Outreach Committee created a listserv and substantially enhanced our web presence with more plans for the website through the combined efforts of more staffers available to help. You can see a number of in-progress activities. Importantly, the potential inclusion of a sustainability reporting section in faculty annual performance reviews that we view as an important means for recognizing and valuing faculty efforts and emphasizing the EMS commitment to sustainability. In the operations realm, efforts have been broad with ongoing greenhouse gas emissions inventorying, development of internal and perhaps third-party carbon offset programs, planned work with a second drawdown intern in summer 2021, and planned building energy audits and building utility use displays for 2021. The completion last year of a first college-wide greenhouse gas emissions inventory and the related how-to guide, all through a collaboration between EMS faculty and staff, the Office of Physical Plant, and Drawdown REU intern Catherine Gannon, was a major step for us. The how-to guide has already been shared with 3 colleges and 2 campuses at their requests, of which we are aware of 2 colleges currently using it to create their own inventories. You can see that in fiscal year 2018-19, EMS was responsible for just shy of 11,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions equivalent, which amounts to about 3.4% of university park emissions. You can also see that the majority of our emission responsibility arose from purchase electricity and our share of university steam plant energy. In other words, utilities controlled at the university level. Thus, while we work to reduce our use of these utilities and the emissions directly in our control, all these other things up here, one of the best actions we can take is to advocate for and support university-level purchased renewable power agreements and anything to increase efficiencies and reduce emissions from the steam plants. We continue to focus on that 11,000 metric ton number and how to decrease it in a cost-effective way. One activity currently advanced in the planning phases for 2021 is the possible development of a solar array on EMS-controlled campus ground. If deployed, the array will provide renewable electricity into the power grid and cost savings for the university, while EMS accrues related carbon offset credits. Plans also include for a living lab approach with a meteorological instrument array so that output data from the array can be compared to simple observations of air temperature, humidity, and solar energy flux. We also plan to develop internal carbon offset programs with activities as simple as planting trees on Penn State property for the purposes of sequestering carbon in soils and, importantly, quantifying that sequestration to apply to as offsets to our 11,000 ton burden. I know I've said a lot and quickly, so in closing, I'll simply state that the council and committee thank you for your interest and welcome your input at any time. We will follow this webinar with a target email and short survey for your consideration. And otherwise, thanks for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. Appreciate your presentation, and it looks as though there's plenty going on in the college right now related to sustainability, and it's nice to see the leadership that the college is providing across the university as well. I'll ask the attendees if they have any questions to please enter the question in the Q&A box at the top of the screen, and we will take those questions and pose them to Tim. We do have one question that came in. Tim, I'll share it with you here. Says, this is from Kevin Say, who's also a GEMS board member. Do other colleges at Penn State speak with EMS about how they came to improve on sustainability, or how they can improve on sustainability? If yes, what types of things could they use help on? If no, should EMS try to help other colleges with sustainability efforts?
Well, I can think of a few things in response to that. First is, there's a University Sustainability Council, and any college or campus can have a presence on that if they have a college level sustainability council. So when I first started doing this, I had an observer status on that council. But once we formalized our council and committees at the college level, then I became a member of the university level council. So through that council, we have at least quarterly meetings, and in those meetings, anybody from any college who has a sustainability council can engage with anyone from any other council. So we routinely talk amongst the colleges about what we're doing and how we can help each other. Now, there are some colleges that are further down the path of building a sustainability profile than others. And I would say right now, the college that I have been interacting the most with is the Eberly College of Science. Their sustainability officer and I have been co-chairing with two other members of the faculty an effort to draw the administration's attention towards neutralizing our carbon signature, our carbon footprint, in a very timely manner. So I work a lot with Eberly. And then the last thing I'll say is, I mentioned this greenhouse gas emissions inventory that we've accomplished. We were the first college to make that decision to pursue that. And it was our approach and strategy that if we wanted to do something about our footprint, we first needed to know what it was. And so I've presented the results of that at the university council, and have attracted the attention of 3 colleges so far and 2 other campuses, and shared that with them. So I've been working with them to, get them started on doing their own greenhouse gas inventory. I hope that answers the question. At least some of it.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Another question from Richard Brown. Are we working with other Big Ten universities with respect to sustainability issues?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know.
Okay.
I know that the University of Michigan has an aggressive program to become carbon neutral, and they have announced their very specific goals in that regard with a timeline. But whether or not so at some level, I think we're competing with them. But whether or not we're working together, I haven't personally.
I have a question. The colleges sustainability plan features objectives in curriculum and student engagement. And our current students really represent the future generation that's going to implement the efforts to achieve sustainability goals. Could you comment on the engagement level of the current students on sustainability initiatives that you see in the college?
Sure. So first, at a formal level, we have currently we have 3 undergraduate students and 1 graduate student on the college council, and so that makes them one of 4 of 13 members on the council. So they have a pretty significant potential voice in the leadership of what we're trying to do. And then second, we have the 4 standing committees that I mentioned, each of which has had student members on those committees. Now, how active those students are on the committees has waxed and waned depending on which committee it's on, but we do have student members on the committees. And then maybe less formally, or maybe I should say not formally, through this College Sustainability Council, there are a number of activities that the students are engaged in through student council and various clubs that are quite active in pursuing a variety of goals. Some of this is stalled in the COVID era, but we had a very active group, a club in solar energy, that were actually building little solar arrays and trying to reaching out into cities, Philadelphia being the one I'm aware of, to provide people with renewable energy charging stations for cell phones in central parts of the city. So those are just some examples of how students are engaged. I mean, I find them to be incredibly energetic, and I'm very hopeful that when we get back on campus in the fall, we'll get to work, side by side with each other and get some things done in the coming year.
Okay, thank you. A question from Joe France. You mentioned the efforts across a few colleges that you consulted with at University Park related to measuring their greenhouse gas emissions and preparing an inventory. Joe's question is, could you comment on the top 5 things that the main campus and the Commonwealth campuses can do to reduce greenhouse gas emissions?
The top 5 might be hard, but I could start. Well, so first is our purchased electricity, and which represents about a quarter of our energy use in any year. And you may be aware that the university has already bought into a purchased renewable power program with a solar array in Franklin County, and that the energy we've committed to purchasing from that array represents 25% of electricity use Commonwealth campus system-wide. So in my view, in many people's view, one of the biggest things we could do to eliminate a big chunk of our carbon footprint is to increase that purchase power agreement from 25% to more, ideally 100%. We could remove an enormous chunk of our carbon footprint system-wide just by that. And the university is pursuing that. And there are business models for making decisions like this. And so it's not from a business risk perspective, it's not immediately obvious that that can easily be accomplished, but the university is pursuing it. And it's, from what I've heard from OPP, it seems likely that we'll at least increase that number above 25% of our purchased electricity sometime in the coming year. Then second, at least here at University Park, is our steam plant, the way that we heat our buildings. And that represents another, you know, I think it's about 1/3 of our total carbon footprint. And so the university's pretty deeply committed financially to having recently switched over to natural gas to power the steam plants. And so getting off natural gas is really not in our immediate future. However, supplementing that gas with biogas is something that the university is looking at. And another thing that we're beginning to look at is sequestering the carbon that's produced from burning natural gas on campus, and then whether or not we can geologically sequester that, you know, by injecting it into the ground. Now, you know, we know that within tens of miles of campus up on the plateau, heading in, for those of you who know where Phillipsburg is, you know, heading up into northern Center County, the geological setting up there is pretty excellent for those purposes, but it would mean building a pipeline to do so, and that substantially increases the costs. So whether or not we can afford that in the near future is a big question, but it's certainly one of the things that we're talking about. Another big one is commuting, and commuting system-wide represents somewhere around 10, it might be 15%, I forget right now, but 10 or 15% of our total carbon footprint is just based on people commuting to campuses. And so anything we can do to learn from what we've all been doing in this time of COVID, and maybe reducing for at least some employees the number of days they're on campus, and therefore the amount of driving mileage they're accruing. Advocating for better public transit would be another. Switching our vehicles, the Penn State owned vehicles, to electric. Of course, that means then charging them with renewable energy, because otherwise you're not gaining anything from a carbon perspective. So to me, those are three things right away that we could be thinking, that we are thinking about, but that if implemented could reduce. But we are really, you know, we are really in the tough time right now with figuring out how to do this. The simplest and most cost-effective changes have already been accomplished. And so now it's really digging down and doing the hard work to reduce our emissions.
Okay, thank you. That's absolutely true. It's harder the further you get into getting some of the smaller contributors and working on getting the sources of greenhouse gas emissions reduced. So all the best to that in that regard. I think we do not have any more questions in the queue, Tim. Are there any final comments you'd like to share with the attendees?
You know, I don't know who's here, but I'll just stress with how I closed. You know, any of the committee chairs, or really anybody on our council or committees, we are open to any ideas that anyone has as to how we can do a better job of reducing the college's environmental footprint. You know, I am, 100% convinced that the only way we're going to do this is if everyone works together to do it. This isn't about, individuals getting famous in the process and laying claim. We've got to all work together to make it happen. And it's really important. John, you asked earlier about engaging with students. To me, it's really important that our older generations, that we show that we're not only do we care about this and talk about this, but that we're willing to do things about it, because they're going to inherit. They are inheriting what our generations and previous generations have wrought, and to help them just maintain a positive attitude and achieve what we need to achieve as a society. We just need to all work together to make it happen. So any ideas, anytime anybody wants to share ideas, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to listen and talk.
Could you share your email address with us?
Sure, that's a big mistake I made. tsw113@psu.edu.
And Tim, I've typed that into the chat for everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tim. Great presentation, and it's great to see what's going on in the college related to sustainability. I think, you've got a lot of things on your plate, obviously, but you look also like you have a great team and your committees are working hard. So we look forward to future updates and progress reports on your efforts up there on campus. And I think you've made all the alums on the call very proud of what's going on at Penn State in sustainability. I would also like to add that for those in attendance, if you have any ideas for future presentations that you'd like to hear about related to what's going on in the college, please send an email to gems@ems.psu.edu. And then also, as you see on your screen, there are lots of opportunities to stay connected with the college. So please take advantage of those if your schedule and time permits. So with that, I'd like to close. Thanks again, Tim, for your efforts and your presentation. And thanks to all for attending today. Much appreciated. Stay safe.